in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Okay, reasonable risk, but you got to take risks. And up until now, for the past, 30, 40, even 50 years, you make a mistake in the military, you're done. You're finished. One mistake, and it stays with you forever, and you don't get promoted, and you get kicked out. So one way to get promoted was to not make any mistakes. And one way to not make any mistakes is you don't do anything, okay? Now, when Pete advocated for having risks, taking risks, I'm all for it. They should be reasonable risks. And if you take a risk and something goes wrong, that needs to be documented. It should not mean that you are finished for the rest of your life or anything like that, depending upon the matter at hand. But this Blue Angel situation, right? Pete doesn't know how to fly. Pete's not an aviator. I am, all right? I know how to fly. I flew in the military for a decade, all right? I have real military experience. Pete desperately pulled political strings so he could get his ticket punched. All right? That's what he did. He called a general. He had no business going to Iraq, but he called a general, send me to Iraq. When I went to Iraq, I didn't have to ask a general for a favor. The orders came from the general, and then they went to the colonel, and then they went to the lieutenant colonel, and then they went to the major, and then they got to me, the captain. And then I went. That's the way it's supposed to work. Me, the captain, did not call a general because I had nothing better to do and I was fantasizing about a life in politics. And I thought, you know what? I got a plan. I'm going to go to Iraq and I'm going to come back and say that was the greatest war I've ever seen. All these fake news media types have it all wrong. So I had a feeling. I didn't say anything about the helicopter, because Pete weighed in on those helicopters flying too low over the beach. You think that, oh, yeah, this is great. He's sticking up for the troops. No, he ain't sticking up for the troops. All right? Because the troops manage this. The troops manage troops. Now, if Pete wants to come out of his Secretary of Defense office in the E-ring of the Pentagon and tell Commander so-and-so how to run his squadron when Pete has never run a squadron, when Pete has never had command, when Pete doesn't know anything other than, I don't know, how to drink, how to take, shall we say, a business trip and the perks and opportunities that come along with that. Also, I don't know, how to get a confidential arrangement with a person who's accusing you of sexual assault. How much money do you pay? Do you pay in one installment, Pete? 2 installments? How does that work? How does that work? What did Tim Parlatore get for you? How are you arranged? And then tell us why you thought you did not have to tell the President of the United States about that arrangement. Why? What was the rationale? Who knows? Somebody, this is the way it's going to be. Somebody else might be in that position. Carry on, Patriots. That sends such a horrible message. I've been flying for a long time. That was reckless, and it endangered the people on the beach. Oh, it was so cool. Yeah, right up until the point the guy crashes. What if it was your family on the beach? Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's okay. Command carries with it responsibility. And true command, true leadership isn't always doing what the people want, what your troops want, what the enlisted men and women or the junior officers want. It's lonely at the top. Have you ever heard that phrase? And all he wants to do is be popular. All he wants to do is cultivate a base. And he thinks the base is Yahoo and just going to jump on board with this. And some of them will, because they don't know what I know. Maybe they haven't served. Maybe they have served, but they've forgotten. Or maybe they have a podcast now, and they've gone all podcast, right-wing podcasts, bro-y. I tell you what, Mark Levin is onto it. Is onto it big time with some of these characters. What comes out of them and their new take. And by the way, I think they're just content. I think it's just content. It's marketing decisions because the zone is flooded now with these people. And how do you distinguish yourself, right? I mean, putting some Kevlar on and Velcro and putting some scotch on the shelf and boom, you got a podcast. That's not enough. That's not enough. How you gonna take it? So you do the least common denominator. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe you don't, but the Blue Angels aerial demonstration team, I think the damn team should be probably canceled. All right? I love them. I loved them while they were on active duty. I know some Blue Angels. I flew myself with the Blue Angels as a guest, as a reporter. I flew with a guy I got winged with 5 years earlier, a guy named Dan Martin. Nobody in the fake news knows the Blue Angels like I know the Blue Angels. Nobody in Pete Hegseth's office knows the Blue Angels like I know the Blue Angels. And you don't know what the hell you're doing. You don't. And I just hope that when it comes time to give the president advice, now President Trump is so smart. Actually, just the other day, he threatened to fire Pete. A lot of people in the audience laughed. I'll tell you what, Pete was not laughing inside. You don't say that. That doesn't come out of nowhere when the guy's doing a super duper great job. I just can't believe it. Here he goes again. All right. It's on. Twitter, the TV, I don't care. I don't care. This whole thing, this is not just a good time. This is not just morale. Well, the morale is really, morale is so kind of mischaracterized or misunderstood, I should say, misunderstood. Sometimes morale is sky high. Sometimes. I've seen it in my past, all right? I have seen it in my military career. When the boss lets you do whatever when the boss is hands off, right? Yeah, go, let me know how it's going. Morale sometimes gets really high. If the boss is all over your case, morale may not be so high. But sometimes, depending upon who you are, where you are, you need supervision. You need leadership. You need inspection. I don't know. I am surprised. Must be nice to go through life with that kind of hubris and confidence. But it's the kind of confidence that's going to get people killed. All right? It's bad enough he's got responsibility. I can't believe it. I sometimes I just can't believe it. That guy, Secretary of Defense. Now, and if you have a problem with that, just go back and look at what happened. Look at the mother's email. Look at what she wrote about that guy. This is his own mother, for crying out loud. It's a national security risk. And the other thing is, if he was a voice at the table, and I'm told by President Trump that he was, go into Iran. Go into Iran. Yeah, do it. Yeah, do it. Yeah, do it. See, any time the military is in the news, and they're talking about combat, that's actually good for Pete, right? Particularly early on, because then you weren't talking about his legitimacy or his qualifications or lack thereof for the job, right? Now, there are things I like about Pete. I really do like that speech, and I wouldn't be saying this, and but him weighing in on a decision like this that should be made at the squadron level or wing level, the Secretary of Defense is going to swoop on in and say, nobody gets disciplined. Carry on, patriots. What an unpatriotic thing to do. Very unpatriotic thing. Regarding the great big speech tonight at 9 p.m., what's going to happen, President Trump? I put that question to him not too long ago. Cut one.
You have a primetime address scheduled for Thursday. Some competing ideas, what it's about. Can you give us a preview at all? What will happen Thursday night?
Well, I'm going to talk about various things, but I'd rather not say. Our elections are crooked, and we've got to straighten them out. We got to have voter ID, we got to have proof of citizenship, and we have to do something about the mail-in ballots, which are just corrupt, crooked, and should not be allowed.
Okay, so tonight it's going to be about the election. It's going to be about the election. Election 2020, we believe. He may also talk a little bit about Iran. We got nervous people in the news. Oh, my gosh, the president is going to say something. Yeah, the president is allowed to say something. When's the last time he had a primetime speech? I think he had a primetime speech about Iran maybe in March or April, right? A lot of impatience. Somebody actually said to me today with a straight face, I'm sick of this forever war. It's been 4.5 months. The guy said, it's been 6 months. Well, actually, no, it's been 4.5, I think. Let's see. March, April, May, June. That's 4 complete months. We're halfway through July. 4.5 months, not 6 months. And if you add up how many days we've actually been bombing, well, it's 1, 2, 3. It's about 50, 55 days. All right, we actually haven't been involved in what they call kinetic operations for all that long, at all. Here's a little bit more insight as to what's going to happen tonight. And you know what? It should be legal and safe to question elections. They treat it like you cannot question election integrity. You're undermining confidence in our elections. Well, you're only as good as your last election. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's like you're undermining confidence in Tom Brady, the quarterback. Well, he's only as good as his last game. Well, I guess he doesn't play anymore. Do me a favor. This is J.D. Vance with Joe Rogan, another portion of an epic conversation. Epic. They say that J.D. Vance maybe created more problems than he solved. He's a very voluble guy. He talks. He likes to talk, and sometimes people talk too much. But I want to hear this. Cut 22.
Well, it's just very disheartening that you have to consider the fact that it's really possible that the elections get stolen. And the California one was a big one for me.
And why not just have mail-in, or why not just have voter ID?
Yeah.
That's
insane. Not only did they not have voter ID, you can't show your ID. You're not allowed to show your ID.
You can, in fact, be prosecuted if you try to force somebody to show their ID.
Seems like you want people to cheat.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is from the same people that were saying you have to have an ID that shows you've been vaccinated just 4 years ago to go to
grocery shopping or to go to a restaurant. Yeah, no, it's definitely, that's the part about it that I think makes most people of my political persuasion skeptical of what the Democrats are doing.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to cheat in the election, then just make everybody actually show an ID. Another thing people don't realize is, I didn't realize this until a couple years ago, the voter ID solves a lot of the mail-in ballot problem. Because if you have to show an ID in order to get a mail-in ballot, in order to actually, confirm that there's a real identification attached to that vote, that solves a big chunk of the problem too.
This is just logical.
Yes.
Like, I'm not
every country does it.
I'm not skeptical. I'm accusing them. I think they stole the election.
Yes.
And I think it's common. And this idea that elections can't be stolen. I always say to people, okay, do you think that the amount of election fraud is 0%? No one thinks that.
Yeah.
No one thinks it's zero.
Exactly.
There's always some overzealous person that works somewhere that's doing something. There's always crazy people that are like blue no matter who, we got to win, or red no matter what. There's always people, right and left, that are going to try to rig the election because they think it's imperative. Look, we saw there was people like Oprah Winfrey was saying it. Like, if we don't win this election, you may never vote again. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oops!
Like, why? Who's going to tolerate that? Left or right? That's crazy.
That's right.
But that attitude allows people to justify cheating.
Correct.
And I think they cheat. And I think they've been doing it forever. And I don't think there's any other reason why you would have no voter ID. And they try to say, oh, it's racist to have voter ID. Like, what are you talking about? Do you think other races are incapable of going to the DMV? That's insane.
Yeah,
all right. Thank you, Joe. And thank you, JD. And as we go to break, the biggest lie ever told about any election, all right, that the 2020 election, with all the COVID and throwing the laws out and the rules out and voting any which way, this is what they said with a straight face about the election. Cut 2, and I shall see you on the other side.
This was the most secure election in American history.
We know from the intelligence communities that this has been the safest, most secure election we have ever had.
This is the most secure election in our history.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, Caroline Leavitt, you remember the press secretary, right? We haven't seen her in a while. Well, she took leave to have a baby, and now she's back from her maternity leave. What was it, 2 months, 3 months? Good for her. Let's dip into that press conference right now at the White House. The press secretary back for the first time in a long time.
That none of you would want these individuals living in your communities, and you have this administration to thank that they are on their way back home. The American people delivered a decisive mandate to arrest and deport these dangerous criminals, and President Trump is wholeheartedly committed to delivering on that mandate every day. He will never waver in his duty to defend our homeland and protect the American people, and he has proven without a shadow of doubt that the chaos and the lawlessness that we saw every single day at the border and across our country under the Biden administration was a choice, and it is a choice this president has chosen not to make. While this work is far from finished, the border is secure, and deportations will continue. With that, I'll take your questions today. I look forward to doing so. I know there's a lot of news. We have two people in our new media seats today, Rachel Bade and Ben Black. Rachel, why don't you kick us off? Ben will give you a question, and then we'll get to the rest of all of you. Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. Welcome back to the briefing room, and congrats on your baby.
Thank you.
Two questions,
Sure.
if I may. The first one, a fun one for your first day back. You now have two babies under 2 years old.
I do.
As someone who has a 4-year-old, I can only imagine how little you are sleeping right now. What is your one tip or secret to women who want to have it all, the kids and the hard charging career?
Well, thanks for the question, Rachel, and it is really good to be back with all of you. I don't think there is a secret. You just have to show up every day and keep going, and it really does take a village. Take the opportunity to shout out to my husband, who's home with our babies right now. I look forward to returning home later to be with them, but it's challenging. But for me, I view this as more than a job. I view this as public service on behalf of a president who I firmly believe in everything this administration is doing and really creating a better country for my children and their future, and I'm very grateful for that. Blessed to both be working in this job, but also to have two beautiful babies at home. And as you know, Rachel, and any mom in this room knows, there's nothing better than being a mother. So thanks for the question.
Babies are the best. Okay, a question about tonight. There are a lot of Republicans in this town who very much support the SAVE Act and want to make sure, our elections are upheld, election integrity, top priority for them. But some of them are concerned that tonight's primetime address might focus on, elections of the past.
Republicans, they're getting nervous about the speech. Hey, give me a call, 800-848-9222.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Couple of tidbits here. Number one, the teleprompter operator who works in the White House reportedly, allegedly leaked tonight's speech ahead of time and is under investigation. And the fake news is sitting there, 2020, everybody knows exactly who won. And no, millions of people actually have concerns about who won. Not saying Joe Biden wasn't the 46th president of the United States. He was. I want to dip back into this one more time, if you don't mind. Caroline Leavitt, her first press conference in many months after having that baby.
He'll be on paid administrative leave. I'm sorry, without pay. The administrative leave is unpaid, to be very clear. That was a decision by the president, so I think that speaks for itself.
On the concerns about the election, will the president accept the results of November's elections?
Look, Ed, you should tune into the president's speech tonight before you jump ahead to conclusions about what's actually in the speech. Again, I've seen a lot of reporting and misreporting about what the president will say. We hope CBS will take the speech, and all Americans should take it.
Okay, but I'm not presuming anything. I'm just asking if he accept the results.
Caroline, two questions on the Trump account. First, following the birthright citizenship case, is there concern that babies that are born to illegal immigrants here in the United States are not excluded from these accounts? And also, since the $1,000 per child from the Treasury seeds these accounts, can you assuage concerns from those who feel this is wealth redistribution?
I would certainly not describe it as that. As you know, this was an incredible private-public partnership. We had incredibly generous Americans, Michael Dell, and many
right.
others.
All right, thank you very much.
Contributed.
She's right. There's so much money coming from the private sector on that stuff. Pretty wild. The teleprompter operator. I wonder, they have a full-time teleprompter operator at the White House. How about that? That's a very easy job. That's something that you can quite frankly do on your own. Back when I used a teleprompter, I always felt best when I operated the teleprompter myself. Then I realized, what the hell am I doing with this silly teleprompter? The thing is ridiculous. First, I try to rewrite what everybody else wrote me, and that takes too long, right? This is 15, 20 years ago. Then I said, the best TV writing is writing that kind of mimics spoken word, right? How you speak. I liken it to this way. You know, I told you guys I'm a pilot, right? So I could work for the next 6 weeks on a flight simulator program on a computer, and it would stink in the end. All right, it'd be very rudimentary and crude. Or I could go out right now and fly a plane, rent a plane, go flying for the afternoon. What's better? What's more realistic? So you can spend all your time writing to sound conversational, or just be conversational. See what I mean? Donna in Connecticut, how are you? Is she there?
Thanks for taking. Yeah.
Hi.
You hear me?
Yes, I do.
Good. Well, about tonight's speech, I don't think people should just poo-poo and blow it off and say, oh, he's going to talk about the election again, it wasn't stolen, it was stolen, because it was the fake news that made everybody have these doubts and be sick of hearing about it. But I'm sure there are, I mean, I was mad about it. I was concerned about it, and I think people should really stop what they're doing and listen to this. We really should know if the election was stolen. It's all over and done with, but we also had the pandemic then, and months before the election, the Democrats were already starting their stuff about.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. So we should, and you know what? The fake news, and everybody should realize, he's the president of the United States. Maybe he has a bit more access to information than we have. Maybe he has a bit more access to information than Garrett, whatever the hell that guy's name was at the White House who just spoke, or Charles O'Keefe, or all these geeks from mainstream media networks. Lamestream media, as Sarah Palin used to say. All right, Donna, so you're going to watch, right? Or you can listen right here on WABC, okay?
Because I'm very concerned. I think the American people, and especially people in my generation.
What?
I'm 69 years old. We've lived through a lot. A lot of my peers want to hear this.
All right. Well, don't worry about it. You can hear it. It's going to be on TV tonight. You can watch it or listen to it right here, okay? All right, Donna, I appreciate it very much. Let's try John. How are you?
Hello, Greg. I just wanted to talk about January 6th. I know that the left is planning a release on a movie with Sean Penn, and it's probably going to come up right around the midterm election. I just thought maybe we could organize something, somehow have a production of our own where we maybe take 25 stories or so of victims and get the word out on what actually happened. Maybe a good documentary or so to kind of counter that, because it's going to happen. What do you think?
Well, number one, there's some great material out there already. Tucker Carlson has I think, probably the definitive January 6th false flag operation, right? That's out there right now. Let me see. When is this thing? It's not going to be out before the midterms, I don't think. Let me see here. Sean Penn to direct timely movie. Now, this is last month. All right, so if they're just talking about this thing being made, it's not going to be out before the election. Let me just make sure. Look, they're all in talks. Bradley Cooper is in talks to star in the lead role. It's going to complicate their little project here also when Michael Fanone and Cassidy Hutchinson and some of these other people get arrested, as I hope they are soon. All right, very quickly, Tony. Yeah, what is it?
Greg, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hi.
Okay. I'm just calling about, when you spoke, you made some remarks about J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth. I think that's like putting ammunition in the enemy's gun.
You know what? You're talking about, first of all, J.D. Vance. I know what you're talking about with Hegseth. I love J.D. Vance. The J.D. Vance is flawless in my book in so many ways.
He talks too much sometimes.
Oh, my God. Wait a second. Are you of the mind that we should never honestly appraise people that we like? Like, if you're telling me that the left is going to hear what I said, that sometimes he talks a little bit too much, and guess what? A vice president appearing on a workday on a 3-hour podcast. By the way, I praise him up and down, everything about the guy I love. But we can disagree. We can disagree as friends. Joe Rogan, 3 hours in the afternoon? Like, it's a minefield. So if you're concerned about me raising that as an issue, guess what? The left has already taken off. They picked apart, misrepresented 75 things he said in that podcast. Do you understand? I don't live in Russia or the Soviet Union, okay? I'm free to shoot my mouth off. And if you think I'm going to, like, somehow just become totally vanilla about our own side, no way. That's not right. Giving ammunition to the enemy. I mean, you can see it from space. 3 hours might be pushing it, all right? Might not be in your best interest. That's all. That's all. Show me how many articles have been written by the left about the podcast, all right? There are dozens, hundreds, actually. Now, I'm not saying that those are valid, right? But what they do is they take and they misrepresent. Yeah, I know. You've called in before to defend Hegseth, right? Well, I got beef with them, as you know, all right? I got beef with them. A lot of people do. A lot of people do. And, I also see good things in him. I see good things in that redefining of military culture that he tried. Let me ask you something, Tony. Have you ever flown a military jet?
No, what is the...
Have you ever flown a military helicopter?
I've been flown a civilian jet. I'm not a pilot.
All right. Well, you see, that's the critical thing here. Now, if a F-18 flies 25 feet with its wing down at a 90-degree angle over a beach where there are civilians, and I am the only person in the media establishment who can say confidently that that is wrong, and the Secretary of Defense says, carry on, Patriots. I'm going to take my own programming hints, okay? Tony, I'm going to listen to my conscience, which is informed by my experience and my intellect, all right? And my sense of fairness and judgment and integrity and initiative and enthusiasm and bearing and courage and decisiveness and dependability and judgment. I already said that. That's where I'm coming from. That's where I'm coming from. I think it's pretty solid ground, but I'll let you have the final word there, Tony.
Thank you. I've been anxiously waiting for that. You know what? When you talk about somebody talking too much, just let me address that. We listen to you talk
Hey,
about...
guess what? Guess what? I'm a talk show host, you dummy. I am a talk show host. All right? This is talk radio. I ain't the vice president of the United States. I have no constitutional duty to do anything. This is my duty. All right? This is it. That's the job description. Jeez, Tony, I get it. You're not Pete Hegseth. Go tweet about him. Go love him. Go die. I'll talk to you later. I'll see you around later, okay? I'm allowed to shoot my mouth off. This is America, especially here at WABC. Especially here at WABC. Hey, now, you did mention J.D. Vance. I want to show you something that's really, really upsetting to me about what they are doing to J.D. Vance, what the Secret Service might be doing to J.D. Vance. Undermining him, leaking on him, and trying to possibly endanger his life. This is one of the worst things I've seen in a long time. Listen to this. Vance's security detail is fed up with hastily arranged personal and family travel requests. Secret Service sources said the Vance family asks included getting their young son to a golf lesson on a military helicopter. Now, on Thursday last week, Secret Service agents groused among themselves as they prepare. You know what? That's what they're always doing, grousing. As they prepared to deliver another perk to Vice President J.D. Vance's family. Join a military helicopter crew to fly his young son to his golf lesson. The planned trip on Marine 2, the call sign for the U.S. Marine Corps helicopter, I don't believe this, by the way. And if there was, if the helicopter was going in that direction anyway. They did not summon a helicopter to take this kid to the Gulf. All right? Let's see here. It was canceled at the last minute due to severe thunderstorms and high winds in Washington, D.C., according to 2 people with knowledge of the flight plans. Vance planned to travel with his son on the flight to Joint Base Andrews, which includes a secure, world-class golf center, according to 2 other administration officials with knowledge of his schedule. Joint Base Andrews is about a 5-minute helicopter ride away. All right, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Actually, I'm growing more and more comfortable with the idea of him taking that helicopter, if he did take that helicopter. But this isn't about the helicopter. The Secret Service staff's complaints about a chopper ride for an elementary school student reflects a building morale problem inside the team of agents assigned to shield Vance and his young family, according to 2 people and another person familiar with the agent's frustration. Wow, 2 people and another person. How's that for high-level sources? 2 people and another person. Agents have shared concerns internally about Vance and his office pressing them for trips and assignments that some agents consider inappropriate or even unprecedented use of government resources compared to other vice presidents. The agents pulled in to protect Vance and his family also become fed up. Blah, 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 blah. Screw you guys. How dare you do this? If this is, it's very hard. The fake news, they've canceled themselves. It's very hard to decipher. They blew themselves up. And now when they actually have a story, do you trust it? I don't trust anything about it. They got this somewhere. Give me 1 second, all right? I'll be right back. I got to go through this, and I'm going to call my people at J.D. Vance's office. Be right back.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
To subjugate, to oppress, and to inflict pain and suffering. It's not a coincidence that when you look at these violent Antifa demonstrations, you see any photograph of those who were assembled. To be blunt, not one of the people that is demonstrating looks like a normal person. Not one looks normal. They're all deformed in some way, in their appearance, in their dress, in their mannerism. Why is that? Why? If you look at 2 photographs and you see a normal American street, you see an Antifa protest. Why do the people that are violently demonstrating, why is there not one normal-looking person among them? Every one of them, through the course of their life and their decisions, has scarred their body and their appearance in many different ways, to the point in which their outer appearance becomes a manifestation of their inner hatred. Trust your instincts. To all people and across all civilizations, you know what normal is. You know what beautiful is. You know what good is. You know that families are right.
That's Stephen Miller, a genius senior advisor, deputy chief of staff in the White House. And saying something that's actually obvious if you've ever seen mugshots of Antifa. And I have seen them and I've noticed them and I've made fun of them many times. Number one, where do they find the time? Talk about a work-life balance, I barely have time, for a bowel movement. And these guys are protesting at night, during the day. They're all over the place. How do you find the time to do that? And the other thing, they're all skinny, right? I admire that to a point, right? They're very good at body weight management. Unfortunately, I suspect that methamphetamine has something to do with that. Jason Miller is right. This is an accumulation of very poor choices they have made throughout their lives that lead to, quite frankly, a pretty hideous demeanor. Antifa. You know what Antifa stands for, right? People forget. I didn't even know what Antifa stood for when I first heard it. I heard it for a while before what is Antifa? It's anti-fascist. Anti-fascist. Now, most of them don't know what fascists are. They themselves actually are mimicking, have more in common with fascists than they realize. They don't tolerate dissent. They use violence as an enforcement tool. You look at the Chaz. Anybody remember the Chaz? Those demilitarized zones during Black Lives Matter and the rest. The Chaz, and you couldn't go there no matter what. If you were an outsider, you don't want to come here. These people are domestic terrorists. I remember Christopher Wray. Hey, whatever happened to that guy? The ex-director of the FBI. Talk about a corrupt individual who waged a coup. I do believe, now I can say it. I think I've said it many times. I think I actually made a graphic and I said, it was a coup. But every time I'm like, yeah, it was a coup. It was a coup. How they sabotaged first the president's campaign in 2016, then his presidency, and then his post-presidency, the election of 2024, on and on and on. And Christopher Wray was there for most of it. Most of it. How is it that there was the Mueller investigation? Why did the Mueller investigation happen? Because President Trump fired the FBI director. He fired the one political appointee at the FBI. Actually, there are 2 or 3. There are very few. Who does President Trump think he is? The president, for crying out loud? What does this Constitution say, after all? Huh? Doesn't it say something about the executive power shall be vested in the president? Yes, Nate, how are you? What is it?
Yeah, so pretty much I wanted to remind everybody that, the driving force behind Trump's first and second campaigns was immigration and, getting the deportation agenda solved. And I just want to remind you that...
Actually, hold on a second. All right, here you go again with this. The border wall, you may remember, securing the border, right? To me, that was 95% of it. All right, it was the border. It was the border. Now, there are still deportations going on. You know that, right? We didn't stop deportations. Deportations are happening. They're happening at this very minute. People are getting deported. You know that, right, Nate?
I'm aware of that. They should be stepped up. And
how do you know? How do you know they haven't been stepped up? What do you know about the numbers? I mean, seriously, I know that you're not seeing them on the news, right? You're not seeing them on the news as much. They have changed their tactics. They have not. Okay, we're not going to announce we're going into Minneapolis like that, right? Let's face it. I mean, they were trying to blow up the country, the protesters and the rest. That has a political impact. The people did not like it. A lot of people didn't like it. I kind of liked it. I did, especially when they got those child molesters, illegal alien child molesters. But, the president is the president of the entire country. You know that, right? I mean, he has to factor in a lot of things, and including how things look. You understand any of that, Nate?
Yeah, I do, but I want to leave you with one statistic. Now, the Census Bureau. The Census Bureau does more than just a head count of everybody.
All right, very quick, because the music is playing. What's the one thing you want to leave me with, us with?
75% of Hispanic households with children use some type of welfare. Did you know that?
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?